Hello, everyone. My name is Tim, and I am one of the owners of Inflatable Office and Event Office Party Rental Software. And I was asked to go through a recent ebook that we just wrote, and it kind of details just from our experience, my experience personally being in the rental business, and also our experience just working with other rental companies because of our relationship with the software. And we wrote this book. It contains a lot of really good information, especially for people who are starting up. But I think that even people that have been doing this for quite a while will find some really good information in the book as well. So I'm going to just kind of go through this page by page and talk through some of the points. We're not going to go into super detail because I don't want you to get too bored while watching this. Of course, it's something that you'll be able to rewatch, so you can always pause and pick up from where you left off. I also would be very pleased to send you a copy of this. There's no charge for it. We give it away for free. Just need to get in touch with me, and I will send you a copy. Because one of the useful things about having a copy is that there are a bunch of links in here, and those links will take you different places for different resources. Now, we are a software company, and we are, of course, trying to promote our product. So some of that is going to show up in here, but we tried not to make it very overbearing and just put some little tidbits and information in different sections where it might be useful to you, things that you might want to know. So with all that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is primarily for party rental businesses, but I think that it probably would apply to more people who are doing maybe events or tents, and of course those guys, and maybe even some other things too. There's a lot of general business things in here. So this just kind of describes a little bit about what I talked about and how I've been in the business for a while. And this is just some information that I've collected over the years. And of course, some of you are going to look at this and you're going to say, man, I'm smarter than him. I have more information than he does. And you might be true. You might be accurate. Um, I tried not to spend too long writing this. So I may have missed some things that even I knew. But I'm sure a lot of you guys out there who have done this maybe even longer than me have more things that you could offer. So if you find yourself thinking that, go ahead and send me a line, and we'll put some information in there, and even reference you in a credit or something. So this is something that I think one of the things I like about this industry is that everybody tends to work together a lot. So I think that if there's something that's missing or a correction that you see, send it in, and if we can get it updated and put in there, we will do that. So second section here is just a table of contents. It's going to show you kind of some of the things that we're going to go through today, and I guess I'll kind of go through those a little bit. We're going to do a little bit about the business entity type, information about insurance, safety and liability, considerations that you might have. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about marketing, sales, just kind of running and managing your office, and then we'll have some more resources that we'll go through at the end. Starting a business, number one, a lot of people will start and they don't really know exactly how to do that. I would say there's a lot of different places nowadays that will help you start your business. Even states will give you a downloadable pack that you can use to guide yourself on setting up your business. But I'd kind of go through here a couple different options. The most simplest one probably, and most common maybe, to start with would be a sole proprietor. But it's my belief that you probably should be in an LLC or a limited liability company of some sort. Those are also abbreviated LTD and other abbreviations for that as well. This provides you more protection and than the sole proprietor or the partnership would. A corporation is an option. Usually it's not beneficial until you're a much larger company, or if you're going to be taking investment. So. And I've given you a few links in here about how to do some of that stuff. Usually the formation of the business is going to be within your state, or you can do it in another state. Some people will get fancy and they'll form their business in a state like Alaska because it's really hard to sue someone in Alaska because you have to go there to do it. So if you really want to do that, you can do that. There's an additional cost to that because you must have an office there. And there are lawyers that will let you do that, though. They'll actually let you, um, say that you have an office there, and they will be basically managing that for you, and there is a charge for that. There's also instances where people will form their business in states that have very good laws for that type of business that you're forming, maybe very good case precedents. Um, you may notice a lot of companies, a lot of financial companies are formed in Delaware. And I think that was probably because of some of the cases that had occurred there and the precedent that was set. They felt that it was advantageous to be formed there. So, in addition to forming your business, you're going to need to do some other things, like get a vendor's license. That would be a state thing. Wouldn't recommend doing that until you actually are getting close to the point of collecting revenue, because you don't really need to report until you start collecting revenue, I believe, in most states. Um, Also will probably want to get a federal employer identification number, and that's kind of like your social security number for your business. That's a federal thing, not a state thing. But in general, you'll find that states will use that as well. And it's also really helpful, I think, when you go to get your bank account and set up some of that stuff, they're going to want that number, and you can give them your social security number a lot of times, and they'll take it. But I think it's best to do the FEIN, and it's very easy to do. It's a simple online process, and I have a link there to it. So, next question that people will often go through when it comes to forming their business is about employees. And the employee question kind of comes into, it kind of becomes important with the formation of your business a little bit as well. So there are advantages to paying yourself as an employee. And if you get to a point where your business is making enough money that you can not only give yourself a normal salary or income, that you have additional money after that you're wanting to distribute to yourself because you're doing well. At that point, if you are in an LLC, I would recommend setting up an S corp election. And there's a lot of advantages to being treated as an S corp for tax purposes. It doesn't change the fact that you're an LLC. It just changes the way you can file your taxes. And the big advantage there is that you don't get taxed self-employment tax on all of your profit. So what you do is you pay yourself a reasonable income, and anything above that the company makes comes in at a lower rate, at like a dividend, like at 15%. And you'd want to speak to your accountant to make sure that all based on your situation, that all that would work the way you would want it to. But most of the time, it isn't advantageous to eventually switch to being treated as an S corp. So, but early on, you can probably just draw on the company. Now, remember, when you're paying taxes on your profit, not on what you pay yourself. So you may take very little out of your company because you're reinvesting it to buy equipment and so forth. But if it's considered profit, you will end up paying taxes on it regardless. So that's how that works, if you're not sure. We try to do a lot to help you manage your employees. We have a whole workers module with our product that we offer, and have been doing that for a very, very long time, and set up self-scheduling and so forth. And we're a pretty big leader when it comes to managing your employees inside your event rental software. So I don't know that anybody gets to the detail that we do as far as other softwares go. Let me see if I'm covering this here. Okay. One more thing I'd like to bring up that I didn't, and I'm telling you a little bit here that I haven't actually put in the book. I guess I'm going into a little more detail than the book provides. But I kind of lost my train of thought here. Give me a second. Okay, one of the common things that people talk about with getting help to do their business is, should I treat him as an employee or can I treat him as an independent contractor? And there is a way to determine that if you want. you can send in a form to the IRS. I can't exactly remember the form's name or number identifier, but they have a form that you can send in where you describe how you'd be treating this person, and then they return to you what their ruling would be. And that's probably the safest way to deal with it. If you're unsure whether you should treat them as an employee or an independent contractor, send that in. I will tell you that most likely they're going to say you need to treat them as an employee. They want you to treat them as an employee. And most likely you are going to be doing certain things. I think there's 3 parameters, and you'll most likely be doing those 3 parameters. I don't remember exactly what they are, but these 3 tests will tell you whether a person is considered an employee or not. I think one of them is how much control do you have over that person? Do they use their own equipment or your equipment, and so forth. There's 3 tests, and most likely the way you're going to want to treat that person is going to be like an employee, and so you will have to do it like an employee. Now, paying people like an employee is a lot more work. If you're paying as an independent contractor, you simply pay them based on whatever arrangement you've come up with, as long as and if it's over $600, I think is the limit, then you have to file a 1099 at the end of the year, saying that you paid this person X amount of dollars, and then they have to claim it on their taxes and so forth. If you're doing it as an employee, it's a lot more work because you have to set up a bunch of accounts within federal and state, and those are definitely a bit of work. So you're going to have to cover, and let me just make sure we don't cover some of this here later on. You're going to have to cover a bunch. I don't think we do. You're going to have to do things like unemployment, workers' comp, withholding, and some of that's federal, some of that's state, and then you're also going to have to do local as well. So there's a lot of different things to take into account when you're going to treat people as an employee. At that point, unless you're really into doing stuff yourself, you're probably going to want to get help with that, whether that's an accountant or a payroll company or whatever. I like QuickBooks as far as payroll goes. I think it's a reasonable cost, and you can do everything pretty easily and quickly. They do not handle, at the lower plan, I don't believe they handle very much of the local. So you may have to do that yourself if you're going to try to use that lower cost QuickBooks plan. So anyway, let's move on from that and talk about insurance. At any time, if you do find you have questions, write those questions down. You can always send them to me or post them in some way wherever this video ends up finding you. I'm sure there'll be a way to post or comment or reply to that. Or you can always contact us at Inflatable Office, and we'll be happy to go into more detail and kind of talk through that with you. So insurance is another big one. A lot of people want to avoid this. A lot of people want to cheat their insurance. This is a bad thing. You have to remember that yes, insurance is very expensive, but these things are dangerous. Accidents do happen. People die. People get seriously injured. And you don't want to be the person that they're going after when that happens. So you will need someone in between, and that's your insurance company, to help cover you in those cases. If you were, so that's good reason to buy insurance. If you are going to try to cheat your insurance and you're going to try to kind of fudge your numbers that you give them, or not exactly be truthful about what you're doing, that will come back to get you even worse, because you're not only paying the insurance company, but when something happens and they uncover that you've done that, they're not going to cover you. So if you're going to buy insurance, you got to be honest with them, okay? Because if something comes back that you were cheating on your insurance and you weren't telling them the right stuff, then they're going to say, hey, we don't have to cover you. And if you know anything about insurance, they make money by not paying out. And so usually they'll fight the person who is trying to receive funds or suing. But occasionally, if that person is legitimate and they can't fight that, but they notice that you have broken some of their rules and their policies, they may fight with you and say, we're not going to cover it. It's up to you because you didn't follow these rules. So it's very important. Insurance, some of them will do audits. So the way they usually price insurance a lot of times is based on your total sales. This is, I guess, a measure to them on how much business you're doing, how active you are, and how likely they are to have an issue. I don't necessarily think it's a good way to do it, but it's an easy way for them to do it. If you are starting and you're a new company, you're probably going to get a higher rate than you would if, as you are a little more established. Insurance companies will sometimes do an audit at the end of the year if they're going to be basing your policy on your sales to see what the sales actually were, so that they can either, I don't think they normally give money back, but so that they can bill you more if you ended up doing more business. So I always tried to be on the low side of that. It was a lot easier than trying to get money back from them. There are also some different services that insurance companies will provide, such as help you maybe define your contract, or you may need to, if you're doing an event for a larger organization, they may say they want added as additional insured. And if that's the case, you need to make sure your insurance will allow for that, or either, some of them will do it for free, or they'll do a certain number for free, and then they'll start charging you for each additional insured that you do. But that's something to look into if you're going to be doing those events. So I've listed here a few different insurance companies that at the time of writing this, I was aware of that people use in the industry. Ask around. I'm sure there are more. There are some that, people have different opinions about these places too. Some of them like them, some of them don't. But I definitely recommend getting a few quotes from different places. That would be definitely in your advantage. And it's something you want to do really early on, because you need to get yourself covered so that you can get out there and get some work done and make some money. So they're going to have different rules on reporting too. A lot of these places will have different rules on how they want you to report and train your employees and things like that. A lot of times insurance companies will defer to the manufacturer's guidelines, ASTM guidelines, and maybe state safety guidelines. And we'll get into a little more of that later. So, but this is a high risk industry, and it is important to set up that stuff. Now, we do have a deal with CIA Insurance as of right now. I know things are changing over there a little bit as Larry's selling the company, but as of right now, we can give you 10% off our product and their insurance if you're using both of them together. So that is a benefit to anyone that's using our product and CIA Insurance. So safety and liability. So it just kind of makes sense to go right into that next. And we talked a little bit about how it is dangerous. It is something that you need to be really cautious of. You need to make sure you're training people really well. You need to make sure that you're doing all the different things that the manufacturer says you're supposed to do. When I say that the insurance companies will go by the manufacturer, what that means is if the manufacturer says this item should have 500 pounds on each tether and you don't do it and something happens, they're going to say that you were negligent in that case, right? And you may not be covered in that case. You didn't follow the rules. If nothing else, your insurance company may cover it, but you would definitely lose the case in those instances where you're not following those rules. So, if you are getting sued, they're going to look at all the documentation you have, all the rules that were set either by the insurance company, the manufacturer, yourself, or your state. And they're going to make sure that all those were documented and followed. So it's very important. There's also a lot to consider just with moving things around. So these things are all very heavy, and you're going to be using some heavy equipment, possibly lift gates and things like that on trucks. So you need to be really cautious about safety, even with your employees. So I have a few links in here that'll give you some information about safety in your area. So as usual, we have the three different governments that we have to deal with: federal, state, and local. And I have a link here to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. They've done some bulletins, and while they don't really enforce or have a whole lot of authority over you, a lot of the court cases will reference these, so you end up having to follow these bulletins anyway. And there's a link there with some of the current ones. With your state, a lot of times state will have a department that is dedicated to amusement devices and how you administer that entertainment. So make sure you connect with them. I have a link here that will take you to a page that kind of shows you some of the different state agencies and helps you find who you need to talk to. A lot of the states will also use the ASTM standards, which is the American Society of Testing. I don't know the rest of it. I should know because I'm in it. These manufacturers will use these as well. These are experts in that area that will come up with these rules based on, usually a lot of times based on different accidents or things that occur. They'll build these rules to try to prevent that in the future. Or these rules might be built based on common sense as new equipment's coming out that they may think would be very helpful to prevent accidents and so forth, and just general engineering design guidelines. So you can buy this and join the society, the group, for like $75, I think, and they'll give you a copy of the standards. I have a copy of the standards. We are not allowed to give that out. That's how they make some of their money. So I would recommend doing it for $75. You can get the standard, and I believe I've linked to the correct standard here. I think I just linked to the organization, it looks like. But if you go there, I think it's like F24 is the standard, but you can search and find the one that's made for amusements. A lot of states will require things like inspections, itinerary. They may administer licensing fees to, they may check you out, and then you have to pay a fee to become licensed. They often require maintenance logs, signs, and other training information, like training logs. So all those are things that you would have to maintain over the years and train your employees to use, as well as yourself. There are also some local ordinances that will govern these amusement devices, and a lot of times those are based on the fire officials. And usually that's not going to show up unless you're doing a public event. Like a private event is usually not as concerned about that, or maybe they don't have the authority to move into those areas. But when it's a public event, you will often see a fire official around the area. I shouldn't say often, but you will occasionally see a fire official maybe inspecting the event to make sure everything is properly set up. They often don't know a lot about our industry, but they do have opinions on how things should be done, and they will get involved. So checking with some of those localities before you do things is a pretty good idea. We talked a little bit about contracts before as well. Your safety and liability, your contract should reflect your desire to be safe, as well as some guidelines and rules for your customer to hold them to it as well, and to kind of define different things that you're going to do to maintain safety. You will run into people that say, hey, it's not a big deal that we jump off the roof onto this bounce house, but it is a big deal. And so those things need to be in some way put in your contract where you can shut that event down if you need to, or at least make it very clear to them what is and isn't safe. So, and then have them sign off on it. So if they don't follow those things, and you're not in that at that event, if it's a drop off, you want that liability coverage. You want that to be able to bring that to court and say, look, I did my best. I trained them. I showed them, and I can't make them not do these things. And they did things they shouldn't have done, and that's why they got hurt. So when it comes to training, there's a couple different places where you can do training. There's a few organizations like SIOTA and NARSO, which do amusement training. These are, I believe they stand for something. These are acronyms, which I don't know. But they are places that you can get certified, and some insurance companies want you to do it from some of those, and they'll tell you that if that's the case, or you can maybe ask if you get a discount if you were to do that. Pennsylvania is a state that does training as their licensing procedure, which I think is really cool. But not all states do that. And sometimes, like I said, you can get discounts on your insurance if you do it. So we actually offer a lot of training stuff in our product. So you're welcome to use our product to set up. We have like a general training, and then you can set up your own customized training. And I'm going to get some more training stuff in here in a minute. But documentation is super important, and I want to make sure that you're aware of that. It's if you don't document it, it's like it never happened. So we think that you should take as many pictures as possible when you're doing an event. And we have, in our product, the means to shoot those pictures right up to our system, and it'll attach them to your event to make sure that you have that stuff later. Same thing with your documentation. Snap pictures of your documentation. Make sure you save your documentation. Make sure people know how to fill that stuff out. Make sure that you're sending it at each event. All that stuff is very important. So, this page just kind of talks a little bit about, how we do a lot of that digitally for you and try to make that easy. And a big reason why we do that is because I think if it's easier to be safe, people would prefer to be safe. People don't follow the safety procedures a lot of times because they're trying to cut corners. They're trying to save themselves some time or money. And so we've done all that we can to make it easier for you to be safe, because I know that you want to be safe. Nobody wants, a seriously injured kid on their conscience. So we offer training courses and stuff that you can use for your employees and your customers through our system, and it's always stored for later. We have a partnership with a place called Jump Train, and I have a link here to them. And they do a lot of training stuff and have videos that you can have your employees and customers watch as well. So those are very useful. And then with Jump Train, we even have their tests brought into our system, so you can get certified through Jump Train in our system. So we're the only people that are doing that for software. So we also do some work with wind speeds because wind speed is a serious concern for tents and inflatables. Now, it's very important, I think, to have an anemometer at your event where you or the customer can check the wind speed and make sure that you're not letting people use your equipment at unsafe speeds, or maybe you're taking the equipment down when it's required. But we also do some additional things which are available to everybody, and that is we measure the wind speed at local weather stations at any event going on in our software, and we record that data so that you have it later and you can see or report it if something were to happen. Like for instance, say an item got blown away, or someone got hurt because of the wind, because maybe a tent fell or whatever. We not only log all that stuff, but if you've got the alerts on, it'll send out those alerts to the customer and to your employees to make sure that they know it's unsafe. They need to do something to be careful. And so we have timestamps and everything on that, so that if some court case does come up, we can show that you did your best effort by using Inflatable Office and setting up those alerts, and we're attempting to make sure that they were safe and they did or did not follow that, those safety protocols once they receive that alert. So that's something that no one else does, and that's a nice feature that we offer. So outside of safety, now we went through kind of all the boring stuff right now. We're going to get into maybe a little bit more of the fun stuff. Equipment. Everybody, when they start their business, gets so excited about the equipment because it's really exciting stuff. It's big, it's fun, it's colorful. There's a lot to think about when you're buying equipment. Here's a bunch of manufacturers for different types of equipment that you might buy for your party rental business. There are a ton more. I could have probably listed a couple pages of these manufacturers. If there's someone that you like and you want me to put them in here, let me know. I'll put them in here for the next guy. But you're going to want to really look deep into what equipment you should buy. Should you buy used? Should you buy new? What do you need to look at when you're buying equipment? A lot of rules, like I can tell you right now, this picture here of this one would not pass well in Ohio, because in Ohio you have to have, I think, at least 3 foot of wall here, or you have to fence it. And so when you're buying this for an Ohio event, you would say, well, I don't really want to fence that, so I'm not going to buy this unit because I don't want to carry extra fence with me. Anything in the manufacturer's training manual or setup manual or whatever is very important to you, because that will affect how you really need to do it. So if you find a manufacturer that's saying requiring very excessive weights or large stakes to set up a unit, and you don't want to deal with that, then you might want to look at either another manufacturer or another type of unit, because those are very important. You want to look at things like the weight. You're going to be moving these things around. Some manufacturers will make lighter weight items. They use different techniques to do that. If you're going to have it at an indoor facility, you might go with a heavier item that might last longer, because it's going to get a lot more use because it's always set up, but you don't have to move it, so you don't care so much about the weight. You're going to look into things like repair and warranty. There are some different links here I have for different repair items. That whole repair of inflatables is a big thing, and you might want to look into your area, ask some of the people around to see if there are any repair guys nearby. Most of the time for warranty work, you're not going to want to ship it back to the manufacturer because it costs so much. You're going to want to find someone in the area to repair it, or you're going to want to learn how to repair yourself. So you're also going to look at consumable or replacement parts. If you had like a joust unit, you're going to have jousting sticks, maybe helmets, or you should have helmets. And those things, may wear out over time. And so those are important to think about as you're purchasing your items. Other equipment that you're going to need is going to be things like trucks and trailers. I really like box trucks. I felt really comfortable sending people out in a box truck as opposed to a truck and a trailer. Everybody's different. If you live in an area that doesn't have a lot of precipitation, you may be fine with an open trailer. We were in Ohio. Ohio rains like all the time, so we didn't want to use an open trailer. We used closed trailers in box trucks. So anyway, that's something that you're going to have to think about. You're going to want to make sure that if you're buying these vehicles, that you look at weight capacities, because everything you're moving around is very heavy. If you have to do sandbag weight and stuff like that, it's really easy to run out of weight capacity before you run out of space. So those are very important things to look at when you're purchasing those vehicles. Now, your storage in your warehouse. When you're starting out, you're probably going to end up using your garage or your vehicle to store your stuff in. That's okay. I know a lot of people will use storage units occasionally as they get to the point where they don't have enough room at the house. But eventually, if you're going to do this long term, you're going to probably want a warehouse. And then there's a lot of things you can do once you get into a warehouse that will kind of make it possible to fit more in the warehouse, like pallet racking and forklifts. But that gets into a space when you're usually a lot bigger and you're making a lot more money before you're doing those sort of things. But that is a common thing that people are doing these days. So you're going to need a lot of equipment as far as tools and supplies as well. Of course, you're going to need carts and dollies to move things around because these things are so heavy. You're going to need things like vacuums and wet dry vacs, and to remove water from units. You're going to need different disinfectants like Odoban and other cleaners to remove different dirt, whether it's tar from a road, or maybe someone got silly string on it, which you don't want to happen, or any other thing, because you want to keep these units looking clean and disinfected. So those are some of the things that you're going to want to consider when you're dealing with equipment. Now we're going to kind of switch into more of the office side of things. So websites. A lot of people, when they start out, want to go cheap and build their own website. You can do that, but I would recommend very, very strongly that you don't. Get a well-made website. A lot of the rental software will build websites for you. We are no different. We do that. We like to use WordPress, which is used by like 35% of the world, and it's it works really well in Google. Google likes it and likes to put it at the top of the search engine. By using WordPress, you basically open yourself up to thousands upon thousands of developers. Uh, a lot of development, like it's always being updated, and also you get a lot of plugins and different things that you can add on. Our customers who are using our WordPress websites have an opportunity to search through thousands of plugins and add those on. Like one, for instance, that we saw someone using was one, I think it was called Herd Effect. And what they're able to do is they're able to put in these little things that will pop up on the screen and tell anyone who's browsing their site that say stuff like, hey, so and so just booked this here, and Billy booked this just recently. And it makes it look like, hey, people are into my site, they're doing stuff, maybe I should book as well, or into this website, maybe I should book as well. There's a lot of neat little features that you can add to these WordPress sites that'll do that. And you don't have to wait for the software company to build them when you're using WordPress. So that's why we use WordPress, because we think you get the best of both worlds. And we can focus on the software side a little more and make sure that you're getting top-notch software and a top-notch website. So when you're getting your domain, there's a lot of places you can buy a domain from. So that's the name of your website. That's how people find it. I recommend putting in that domain name the different keywords that you want to be found for. So you wouldn't want to put something like Bill's Business in there, because no one's searching for Bill's Business. They're going to search for things like Bounce Rental. So getting Bounce Rental in your domain name would be very good for you. I like Namecheap, and I've linked to it here. You should definitely buy the domain name yourself. You shouldn't have a software company buy it for you. Some of the software companies do that. You do not want them to control your domain name, because then you can't leave them and take that domain name. You want to own that yourself. So we will never buy that for you. We always have you buy it. And then what you do is you just point it to where you want it to be pointed to. And so that's very important. Any developers will a lot of times try to buy those for you. Don't let them do that. Buy them yourself and then point to where they want you to point them to. And we have a web team, and we actually do free sites. So that with our essentials package, which is normally a $500 value, and you're welcome to work with us to get started like that. We also offer our software for free for people under 10 units. So if you're a new company and you're watching this webinar and you're looking at this ebook, we are a really good option for you to get started. And what's even better is that we are a company that's used by the biggest and best companies in the industry to grow the most. We are the only company that has a franchising package to where large companies can actually use our software to manage their franchise. We have a ton of different features that other softwares don't have that are required and essential for large companies. So the advantage with using us is once you get bigger, you don't have to switch. We're already built and set up for you, and you already know the basics. So when it comes to websites, getting your website up and getting it to look nice is important, but I would say what's more important is getting it found. And getting it found gets into what is called SEO, search engine optimization. There is a lot to think about when it comes to SEO. I don't want to get too detailed on this. I will say that Google is probably the primary place that you want to make sure you get your site up and get it to rank high on. The primary way you get rank is through content. Google is trying to make that more and more important, but also links to your website. So you want to get a lot of links to your website out on the internet, because Google will find those and they'll start to say that you're important, and you're important for the keywords that you're linking from. So if you have your website up on a site that talks a lot about bowling balls, probably not going to be as valuable to link over as it would be a website that's talking about renting bounce houses. That will probably be a more valuable link to you. Also, you want to get your website links on places that have already high search engine, that they're already ranking high on search engines. So those are going to have a bigger effect on bringing you up as well. There's a lot to get into with SEO, like I said, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but I do want to let you know that you can get a lot of different people to help you with that. We are also doing a lot of work with SEO, so if you want us to, we will do that for you. We have some different plans that we offer, and I've linked to some of our stuff as well in here, so you can always look that up. So, and there are a few basic things that you can do for getting your site listed. And if you read through here, you'll see some of those basic things. We're not trying to hide anything here. We want to help you do a good business. Google My Business is one of them. I think it's a really important place to put your business. It's very simple. So make sure you go to this link and set up your business on Google My Business. That will be very helpful for you. Some of the other ways that you can get found is through online advertising. You've probably heard of Google Ads. If you haven't, I guarantee you've clicked on them. So when you do a Google search, the first things that come up, some of the first things that come up are Google Ads. So we don't do Google Ads, but if you set up an account with Google, they will try to help you. Facebook also does ads, so that's another one. We have relationships with some people that do a lot of this ad stuff. And again, I'm not going to get too deep into this technical part, but there's a lot to think about when it comes to ads, keywords, conversions, landing pages, some of the buzzwords. Basically, you want to show up for a keyword, you want to convert, so you want people to click on it, but you don't just want them to click, because when they click, they pay. So you need to make sure that when they click, you take them to a landing page that helps improve your conversion. So whatever page you take them to, you want to somehow get them convinced to purchase from you. So we're not trying to trick people into clicking your link. That just costs you money. We want to get the right people to click your link so that you can sell to them, so that you spend less on your ads and make more money. Same sort of thing with Facebook. It's a little different because people aren't searching. In Facebook, you're actually advertising more like you would with a TV show, where you're looking for audiences, you're building audiences, and then you're trying to push those ads and get that audience to interact with them. And again, the key to this is conversions. So make sure you get yourself a Facebook page for your business. That will be very helpful for you as well. One of the companies that we work a lot with, he's actually a user of ours who started his own company doing ads. It's called My Ad Academy. His name is Tariq, and he can definitely help you with all of these things. He's very good at it. He's even helped us do some of our advertising as well. So let's move on to, okay, so we're still doing a little bit of marketing stuff here. Email marketing, a lot of people aren't doing it anymore, but I still think it's very valuable. If you have good rental software that's helping you capture your customers, then you should definitely be using those tools to send out email newsletters to try to either upsell or to bring on new business from those same customers or those same contacts that maybe haven't worked with you yet before. And we go through a few different things in here on how our software will help you do a really good job at making these emails effective and tracking those emails and see how effective you were. And I also talk a little bit about how to set up an email to get the best response. So sales. So we're if you've kind of noticed here, we're going from the ground up. I'm kind of building through these things. So we've got the equipment, we've built the business, we've got the equipment, we have the website and the marketing out there. Let's talk about sales. That's the next thing, right? When all that's done, we now are starting to sell. We're actually starting to make some money. So it took a while to get there, but we're starting to do it. Again, your website is going to be one of your primary selling tools. I think you're going to emails and phone calls to customers is going to be another selling tool. Now, when you start out, a lot of people are looking for customers to make the sale for them. They're not calling, they're not emailing, they're not following up the way they should to earn that sale. That's okay. You're probably really busy, but over time, you need to be thinking about how can I maximize my sales? How can I, if I'm spending this money to get people to interact with me, then I need to make sure that I'm selling them because otherwise I'm wasting a bunch of money, right? Uh, it's a way easier to sell someone who's talking to you than it is to try to find someone else that might be a sale, right? So let's focus a lot on that. And we have some different tools in our product. We have a CRM module, which is a customer relationship manager module, and that will help you to decide who's hot, who's not, what they want, how you can, and create automated interactions to make sure that you're staying in touch with those customers. Phone calls are a big deal. A lot of people don't do this very much. Um, but when you have someone that's doing something with your website and you see that lead come across your rental software, you really should email them and call them at some point and try to answer any questions they have and try to work to sell that person. It makes a big difference. Now, we have a phone product. No other software does that. Our phone product integrates with our software so that you can see everything that's going on with your phone calls, missed calls, placed calls, received calls, voicemails. You can even text to and from your business number. So this is a really cool feature that no one else is doing, and it helps you to do a really good job with your sales. Let's talk about your office for a minute. We talked a little bit about phone stuff because we have a phone system, but there are also other phone systems as well. There's a lot of different ways that you can do your phone. When you're starting out, a lot of people will just do their cell phone, and that's okay. But what I would recommend is still getting a business number. Google Voice is a free way to get a forwarding business number that your customers can call that's different than your number, but it'll ring any of the phones that you want it to. Our phone product works very similar to that. I would recommend doing something like that at minimum because you don't really want to advertise your phone number. You want to be able to have time off if you need it, and you want to be able to separate your business and personal calls. So when it comes to email, if you're getting a website, you should be able to have your email set up with your own domain. However, I think that's the best way to do it because you have the least amount of limitations, but you can also do a Gmail or a Yahoo or other email address if you want for your business. Sometimes those are good because sometimes you can do things to get your domain blocked. If you put your domain and your host is on a server that's a shared server and other people on that shared server are using that server to spam people, you may end up getting blocked even though you're not doing anything bad. The good news is a Gmail email probably will never get blocked unless that specific email has been doing things that people don't like. So that is something to consider. I still say get the right server, get the right web hosting company, and we can set that up for you if you would like us to, so that you don't have those problems. But Gmail or Yahoo, those are still good options at times. Accounting software is another thing you're going to need as you do your business. We in other rental software will track a lot of your income, but we don't track your expenses. And when it comes time to do your taxes and so forth, you're going to need that additional information. So we recommend absolutely getting some sort of accounting software. There's a few of them out there. I would say there's not as many as you would think. Probably the most used one is Intuit's QuickBooks. They have both online and desktop versions. I think the online version is the better version to use. It is a little more expensive, but it works very well. And our software will sync with both of those versions, desktop or online, for QuickBooks. You set up the sync one time, and then we just keep maintaining that. So you don't have to import or export or anything else. We just keep your income side up to date. You'll still have to enter your expenses in your accounting software, but that is definitely something you're going to need. And the sooner you get that, and the sooner you get that under control, the better, because it doesn't get easier. If you wait till tax time, now you're scurrying around looking for receipts and trying to figure out what everything was and how to enter it in, so that you can maximize or minimize your tax liability. So it's also pretty essential when it comes to payroll. So if you're going to be doing payroll, you're going to want some software like that, accounting software. Rental software, and we talked a little bit about ours right now, but if you don't choose us, you got to choose someone, because rental software is very specific to what you're going to be doing, and it's built in a way that's going to maximize your time and help you make the most money. You may think that you're too small now to worry about it, and in some ways you're probably true, but it helps you develop really good habits. And I think that it helps you get to a point where you're growing much faster. If you don't get a rental software, you're going to have a slower growth, I believe. So, and I think almost everybody, no matter what software they're using, would tell you this. You're still going to doubt me, but I promise you, rental software is probably one of the most important parts of your rental business. So now we're so confident that you're going to prefer our software over any other, that we will give you a free $50 Amazon gift card just for participating in a demo with us, because we want to show you how much better we are than other people and how we can help you. So if you're interested at all in checking us out, and I do believe you should check out all your options, make sure you don't skip checking out us. Okay. In the last section here, more resources. So I could have done a lot more. There is so much to go through. I tried to keep this presentation short. I tried to keep this ebook short. Actually, I was told to keep the presentation around 45 minutes. So I'm trying to do that. But what I want to show you here is a couple additional resources, and then we're going to close up here. One of the biggest ones is IAAPA, and that's a trade show for pretty much everything amusement related. You need to try to get there. There are ways to get free tickets by talking with vendors. So I would suggest that you're going to run into people that are going to tell you all sorts of things, that are going to educate you, just other operators that you're going to bump into on the trade show floor. And it is such a fun trade show. So I recommend going there. There's also a number of different forums or groups on Facebook. One of them is Rental Pros. That's one that we run. It's not just about software. It's mostly just about running your business. So that's a great place to join and ask questions. I am making this video for my friend Willem at the Event Professionals Alliance, the EPA, and they are probably the biggest group on Facebook when it comes to this industry. And they do a lot of different things to help operators like you, whether you're new or very experienced. And so you should definitely join that group and check them out. There's another group called the Pro Group, which is a similar group of people to Rental Pros and the EPA. And then there is a Moonwalk forum, which is an actual forum. I don't know if any of you have been to a forum for a while, but there is an actual forum out there. And it was one of the early groups that was out there. There were others that have since gone away, but this one is still out there. I don't think it's very frequently used, not like the Facebook groups, but there is a wealth of information in there that you can search for and find. So I wanted to give that to you as well. And I'm sure I left out a number of resources, so I'm not going to go into those. Well, if somebody has more that they want me to add to it, please let me know, and I will definitely add those into the book. Last thing I want to do is just kind of mention that we have recently upgraded our system, and it looks very nice. It helps you to, we spent a lot of time working on making it easy to use, with all the things that you need right at your fingertips so that you can make your business the best it can be. We provide more modules and features and different packages than any other software that's out there. And we truly are used by the biggest companies in the industry to run their business and grow the most. So we want you to be a part of that team. So make sure you get in touch with us and let us answer any of your questions that you have. Let us show you around the system and help you with your business, because we want to see you succeed. So thank you, everybody. If you actually listened this far, I am impressed, because I would not have. I think a 45-minute presentation over video is really long. So, but I appreciate you hanging out with me. And go to www.inflatableoffice.com. Connect with us. Ask us for the ebook if you want to get a copy. We will get that out to you so that you can look back at that ebook whenever you want. You can get to any of those links that you need, and you can make your business as good as it can be. So thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.